Hello, I'm Joshua Farnsworth and welcome to my traditional woodworking school. In this video, one of our instructors, Bill Anderson, will show how to make a tongue and groove joint using traditional wooden tongue and groove match planes.
We're going to make some tongue and groove joints with a couple tongue and groove planes and give you the opportunity to see how the advantage and disadvantage of each of those planes. One of the first things that you need to do if you're cutting tongue and groove joinery is make sure your boards are all going to be oriented in the same way. And in addition, you want to make sure that your boards are jointed straight and square along the edges, because you're going to make essentially a butt joint. So I'm just going to take a pass here with a panel plane and get that nice and straight and square. I'm happy with this. Let me just check. Looks good. I've already done this board here. So I'm going to orient these boards. Now remember, when you make a tongue and groove, the plane that makes the tongue makes two new shoulders, one on each side of the tongue, and those shoulders are visible. The groove plane makes a groove down the center of the board, and that joint is not visible. So when you're choosing grain direction, you want to make sure that your tongue board is oriented so when you plane with the grain, that you be playing with the grain and getting those two new shoulders. And on this board here, we've already jointed and we've seen that it's smooth this way, so that's with the grain like that. So I'm going to call this a tongue board. And then by definition, the opposing face will be a groove. So I'll go ahead and call that a groove board. And in order to make sure, particularly if I was going to have multiple boards making a large, say, back of a cabinet, and I had several boards there, I want to make sure I can get those boards back the same way and have a reference surface on each board. So I draw a carpenter's triangle that's going to allow me to do that. Now notice, when I get ready to plane the tongue, it goes directly in the vise like this, so the reference face is towards my left side, which is the side that the fence is on the plane. When I do the groove board, that board needs to be switched around and put in the vise like this, so that again, the reference face is towards the left side where the fence or the plane is at. So just remember that even though you have this orientation here, the boards don't go in like this, because that's the opposite of the way they're supposed to be. So you joint the boards, get them square and flat, draw some orientation marks on them, identify which one is going to get a tongue, which one is going to get a groove, then you're ready to go. And typically when I'm making a back, I leave the boards long, I cut the joinery, and then I cut them off to be the precise length and width that I need for the panel. That way, any discrepancies at the end of the joints, I've cut away. And so I can keep my joints looking good. So let's go ahead and cut a tongue. And I'm going to use this matched pair, handled matched pair of wooden tongue and groove planes. So the first joint is a tongue. I'll go ahead and put this in here. And I'll choose the plane that cuts the tongue joinery. Here's the fence. The fence goes on the left side right here. So we'll set this up here. And this is a plane that stamped 3/4 of an inch, so it puts a groove essentially in the middle of 3/4 inch thick stock. The iron's a little bit wider, so it'll work on wider stock and narrower stock. The groove will just be displaced one side or the other. One of the things to remember when you're using a tongue and groove plane is to always keep the plane straight up and down. If you tilt it, your tongue leans over to one side or the other, and then when you try and put the groove board on, your boards are going to wind up catty-cornered like this, cattywampus across the face. So focus on the plane being straight up and down. And just like molding planes or other grooving planes, you want to focus on pushing through, not down. If you meet resistance, relax, slide over the resistance, continue on. Don't try and dig in and make something happen. Just relax and slide over it. When the plane quits cutting, it's bottomed out on the very bottom of this profile right here. Now you noticed I made my last cuts happened here, and that's because the power cut that one does, you put most of your force down here, and so the profile develops more down here than it does here. In other words, it tapers down this way, and you'll have to feather out the last part of the cut to get it all straight. But it needs to be non-cutting across the whole length. So we're done with the tongue, and now we'll put the groove in. And remember, the reference face goes into the vise facing to the left. And we'll use the groove plane here. And again, that groove is set way too far out. Let me readjust it. If you can see that there, how far that's sticking out. Remember, the groove iron has a gap, has a small V cut in the back of the iron to rest on the skate, to keep that iron centered on the skate, so that the V is always in the same spot. For the tongue plane, the reference is on the left cheek. See how that is. We're just getting it cut, but I'm going to advance it just a little bit. Again, I'm focusing on keeping the plane straight up and down and making sure I'm cutting through the whole width of the stroke, beginning to end. And really, like all other planes, following through counts a whole lot. So I'm planing, and then I'm actually coming back in the groove, but I'm relaxing on the drawing backstroke, so I'm not pushing down on the backstroke. Once we've got the other part of the joint cut, we'll try and fit it. I like to go ahead and put it in the vise. See how it slides down here. It's a little bit tight. See how it slides down here. I'm going to look and see, get a sense of if this board is proud this way or proud that way. Right now, it seems to be pretty flush, but it's tight. So I'm going to take a little bit off. I'm going to tweak the tongue. This is usually what happens. Tweak the tongue with a shoulder plane. Another example for the use of a shoulder plane. And again, to do this, you need to make sure the shoulder plane is held square. Oops. Get this to go back. And then feel if it's flush. So you can see the joint is smooth. And there's our tongue and groove joinery right there. I'll repeat this with one of the Stanley metal tongue and groove planes, just to give you an idea of how that plane goes.
If you're interested in learning traditional woodworking, come take a class at our school in Earlysville, Virginia. You can also visit our website at WoodAndShop.com, where you'll find a bunch of free woodworking lessons, workshop tours, and our very popular tool buying guides. And make sure you subscribe to our free newsletter to get our latest articles and videos. Enjoy!